over to the finale on Thursday night in the West region. Great game. Rematch of the 2021 Final Four game, COVID year, when Jalen Suggs hit the half-court shot.
Oh, man.
To win the game. What was that? Overtime or straight up overtime, right? Not double overtime.
Yeah.
So UCLA actually bumped up a little bit before we start recording this podcast. They opened at around -1.5. Now up to 2.5, depending on the shop. Total 145. And looking at injury-wise, because that's obviously a huge factor, David Singleton exited the Northwestern game with the ankle injury. He spoke to it after the game, said he's okay, but you never know how it's going to go over the course of the week. It might stiffen up. It's an unknown variable when you're capping this. But the fact that he wasn't on crutches, like that's a good sign, you would think. Adem Bona, UCLA's 5-star freshman big, shoulder injury that kind of reappeared in the second half, and now he played down the stretch. So again, an unknown variable, but leaning towards, you would think after 4 or 5 days of rest, 4+ days of rest, you would think he'd be okay for this game on Thursday night. And Jalen Clark, obviously the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, arguably the best on-ball or off-ball guard in the country defensively, out for the season. Now, Bona and this UCLA post defense, starting there, I think they match up great against Drew Timme, who, if he's getting away with those hooks on Bona like he did against TCU, then maybe Gonzaga squeaks by. But I think the post-up defense for UCLA is a big advantage for Mick Cronin's defense. Like you mentioned, UCLA with one of the better, second best defense, even without Clark, right there with Tennessee. And it's interesting, to the two best defenses in college basketball without two of their best defensive guards in Ziegler and Clark. And I also think UCLA has a major advantage at the rim, especially in those pick and roll sets, because that's Mick Cronin's offense. It's ball screen pick and roll with Bona, but especially Jaime Jaquez, who is one of, I think you could say that has among bigs in college basketball the best footwork, or at least among fours, when it comes to generating his own shots. But even in just pick and roll sets, I think UCLA has a big advantage because Gonzaga doesn't have that rim protector. I've hammered that home a ton this year, like they did last year with Chet Holmgren. So big thing for the Bruins, Jaquez has to stay out of foul trouble on top of Bona, but I think Jaquez is much more important. I know that's obvious. He's one of the best players in the country, but it's definitely worth noting. And if UCLA can be efficient enough in those pick and roll sets, or just with their half court offense in general, get open threes if their pick and roll is efficient early on, then you're going to see the Bruins really start to control the pace, especially in the second half if they're up with Tiger Campbell, one of the best point guards remaining and best point guards overall in college basketball. Almost, fun fact, almost committed to DePaul, or he did commit to DePaul, my alma mater, and then left abruptly, sadly, to UCLA. So, Justin, your take on the game.
This is, you said that there was a game you're staying off of. This might be it for me. This is a tough one. I think, honestly, I might lean towards the over. I really think that this Gonzaga
even with the pace?
Team, yeah, I think it's just one of those sneaky games where we're going to see some decent three-point shooting. I was pretty impressed by what Gonzaga was able to do with their shooters. And if both of these teams are just on, this is like one of those games where I was talking about like a little bit more of that like reliable offensive efficiency from teams who have been battling through, able to score against some of these other tournament teams. I know it's a little tough. The line, where is it at right now? It's sorry, I don't.
The spread is 2.5.
Spread's 2.5, totals 145.5 currently. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna actually make this one all the way up to 150 on SQ. I think that probably even includes the presence of a player like Jalen Clark, because our numbers are notoriously slow to adjust due to it being like entire season's body of work. So I think there should be a good amount of back and forth between these teams, especially in the second half. I know it might be a little bit of like that opposite thinking type of take, but I don't know. I think this could end up being a sneaky over. I couldn't tell you on the side. I probably lean towards Gonzaga. It's just, this one's just going to be one of the like have to just watch it type of games for me. I don't think there's really a place where you can like lock into an edge in the play style. Both of these teams are very complete. They get reliable shots. You're talking about 23rd in shot selection for Gonzaga, and then UCLA a little bit lower in terms of that, 216th, but the shot making with guys like Jaquez really kind of helps them power through, and they're really effective on their rim and threes. So 33rd most efficient in the most valuable shot types really helps them stay alive. And as I said, second best defensive rating in all of shot qualities metrics this entire year. Number one was Iowa State. We saw how that went. But, again, this is another one where you look at the regression stats, UCLA, a lot of things pointing up on defense, but might just be one of those scenarios where they are routinely able to outperform shot-based expectations because of some of the athleticism, some of the X factors that don't really show up in just the quality of the shot. But this is just going to be a treat. The Gonzaga offense is really another year of them just being elite in terms of our metrics. Their defense leaves a lot to be desired, though. So that's just my one thing is I think Gonzaga is just always ready to go for like a shootout type game. They're always happy to go for a will outgun you, score what you want. You can put up 78 if we put up 82 type of thing. So we'll see how it goes. It might end up being a every last point matters type of battle, and I'm wrong about the over, but I like the odds, and that's all it comes down to. I'll happily take a loss 45% of the time.
And you mentioned how good Gonzaga's offense is. That's to say the least. Gonzaga number one in adjusted offensive efficiency, 75th adjusted defensive efficiency, but they're like you said it perfectly. Their ability to get great shots and also make great shots, the shot making is elite and then some, mitigates for those defensive woes because their offense on a possession by possession basis is doing things that I guess since 2 years ago with Suggs and Kispert and Timmy, since that team, and they were better defensively that year and they were better defensively, especially last year with a rim protector. Right, having a guy that could eliminate things at the rim like Holmgren, which is why the pick and roll sets for UCLA are really important. That's why if you had a gun to my head and you said, how would you play this game if you had to take anything at all, pregame or live, I would say look for UCLA live.
I agree. I think there's a really good shot for you to get some value on a line like that. Make sure you're following shot quality. We're putting out those halftime expectation scores. So if you see a good spot, it might be a good place to do it. I mean, we actually got some flack on Twitter last night with the TCU game because, we have a relationship now with those Gonzaga fans after that Arkansas game those years ago. Look, Gonzaga, they once they start getting a taste of the net a little bit and they start seeing those shots go down, they get pretty electric. We had them pretty massively ahead in the shot quality at halftime, even though they were losing, and of course come back, get it done, even though I got my heart broken full circle already. But sorry, it's all right. That was crazy. I'm still like, woo. But I think this should be a great spot, honestly, just to watch some basketball. So I just, the over feels like it could happen. I'm not my personal favorite bet for the entire weekend, but probably one of the few totals I feel decently confident in.
And I'm with you there. And especially if Gonzaga's, hitting shots like you said early on in the game. The one, just in terms of the live angle really quick that I mentioned, this is why watching a game is so important rather than just monitoring on any sports betting app without watching it. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be tuned in late on Thursday night, or hopefully you're not asleep by that point. But because if Jaquez or Bona get in foul trouble, then you're talking about potentially a completely different script when I mentioned the UCLA angle. So you never just want to go in and say, okay, Eli said this, Justin said this, automatically, or whatever capper you enjoy. I'm not saying you have to enjoy either of our takes on any games. Hopefully one or two.
But at least 50% right hit.
50%. That's it. There you go. Or 53%. So that's what we strive for as bettors. But again, you want to watch this stuff. You really want to make sure you have an understanding of what you're watching and what to look for. So if UCLA is down and Bona and Jaquez are on the bench with 3 each, with 12 to go. Right. Or something crazy like that. You then stay the hell away or don't bet. Like, you don't have to bet the live angle. I'm just saying, like, the eye test is important too, even though people want to mitigate that in its own right.